but if he gives Banya to Sanv, he loses his best hold on Fibra. Sanv will likely send an emissary, Fiacre said, as will Ockid. They will need gifts, Finmal said, just slightly more valuable than those they bring you, but only slightly. And Elim will send an emissary in response to yours, Fiacre said, who must be sent now, before you sail. He'll get no good answer, but it must be done in proper fashion if you want the others to follow you. Which of you three? Tuathal asked, and Faustus watched with interest as they sorted out who might best have the upper hand in Elim's hall. The Hibernian clans were small kinship bands that aligned themselves according to marriage ties or land holdings, and occasionally according to whoever had given an insult that offered the excuse to fight. Elim would never bow to Tuathal, but he could be made uneasy with the right approach, and uneasy kings made mistakes in battle. You are not in command, Faustus reminded himself, as he had regularly since they had sailed from Isca for the Epidies Islands on the western coast, where Tuathal's mother had been born. Tuathal, even as an exile, knew his people best, and was a born commander. Faustus's job was to drill Tuathal's warband into the precision of a Roman legion. They had been well on their way when the legate at Isca had suggested that the governor was growing uneasy over his decision to allow that many men not under Roman command to be trained in Roman tactics, and that it might be best to be out from under his nose. The chieftain of the Epidii was content to have them in his territory where Rome had very little presence, because Tuathal had an open hand with which he had paid for ships to be built and sent south for his warband. Like the Roman governor, Cadmon of the Epidii had been unaware of the size of the war chest which Tuathal's mother had spirited out of Hibernia, along with her infant, until it was too late to appropriate it. In compensation, having his nephew on the High King's throne in Hibernia would be politically useful, and would give him the advantage in trade between there and Britain. It would be well to sail soon, Faustus thought, both to give them as long a campaigning season as possible, and because the warband camped outside the wall on the landward side of Cadmon's hold was growing restless. They wanted to fight someone. He left Tuathal and the Hibernians, and wandered out of the hall through the warren of buildings, threading his way between the guest hall, the dairy, and the women's weaving house. From the seaward side of the surrounding village, perched on a promontory above the water, he could look out to the westward islands that rose humpbacked above grey water. Landward stretched Cadmon's fields, and outlying farmsteads, and Faustus's army arrayed amid its tents and wagons in the orderly geometry of a Roman marching camp. Beside the camp was the drill field, targets for archery, straw men for sword practice, and the posts which every man learned to hit with a slingstone. It had not been an easy thing to instill in them the habits of a professional army, particularly the sons of wealthy southern houses with a taste for adventure, who arrived in shirts and breeches of fine wool, their throats heavy with gold torques, attended by armour-bearers and grooms, and indignant at the expectation that they carry their own shields and armour on the march. There were flax-haired farm boys, muscular and efficient-looking as young bulls, and dark-haired Siluries armed with bows and spears, their chests tattooed with the clan marks of their houses. There were men of no recognizable tribe or city, armed with serviceable long swords and clad in ringmail and iron helmets, and men from the Highlands, who had probably been fighting the Romans the year before, when Julius Agricola had taken Roman control of the island clear to the northern shores. There were a handful of ex-legionaries, and a few that Faustus thought might be and weren't admitting it, since there were not many other ways to leave the legions other than honourable discharge. And there was the tall blond man with a right arm that hung immobile at his side, and a sword belt slung to be drawn with the left hand, who had appeared looking for Centurion Valerianus not long after they had come to the Epidii camp. He had the accent and the tribal tattooing of the Highlands, but unlike most of the Britons who cultivated luxurious moustaches, he was clean-shaven. Faustus